Nomadic is a brand out of Belfast, Ireland, and it takes its name from the iconic White Star Line ship. And this watch, the Marai 401, which means seafarer in Irish, is their debut model. This color is the pitch black, but there are 4 other colorways available, 2 with gilt dials as well. And these watches are using the Sellita SW200-1 movement, and of course they have sapphire crystals, 200 meters of water resistance, and a pretty classic look. I've seen a lot of these ads for the brand on Instagram, and that is one of the main reasons I wanted to check them out, as before those ads, I don't believe I had really seen the watch before, so I reached out to get one for review. The history of the SS Nomadic is fascinating, and the brand used some elements of Belfast and the Nomadic in the colors of this watch, but this watch looks a lot like a very mainstream brand. We all know which one, and we are going to talk about it all in this review. So yes, the SS Nomadic ship is an interesting story, one steeped in history of course, and since 2006 it has been back in Belfast where it was originally built, which is very cool indeed. It has been refurbished to its original glory and it has that iconic yellow smokestack, which you can see represented in the yellow second hand of this dive watch. Beyond that, I am not seeing anything else that really ties this watch to the city of Belfast or the ship itself. And yes, I'm going to talk about that more, especially that blank case back, very shortly. As many of you know, I am a straight shooter and I always have been. And while I have my own biases, as everyone does, I always say things how they are and how I believe they are. And when I'm looking at this watch, there is no denying it is just an homage to a Tudor Black Bay, or as I look at it more, maybe a combination of Black Bay and Pelagos, especially when looking at that bezel edge of this Marai 401. Now, I think we all knew Nomadic was going for that Tudor homage, but I wonder why they didn't do more to differentiate it from the Black Bay. The case is very much Black Bay, and the crown, while not having crown guards, is not exactly like the watch it homages. Actually, it's kind of a generic crown without any personality. The dial, except for the hands, is Tudor. The bezel, well, again, here we have a combination Black Bay and Pelagos bezel, with the bezel itself and the really sharp coin edge being more like the Pelagos and the insert being more Black Bay. The bracelet is more of your typical microbrand style bracelet, and they opted to not go with the rivet style bracelet, something I actually appreciate, and then you get to the case back. Now, beyond it looking pretty much like a Black Bay case back, or certain Rolex case backs for that matter, I have one really big gripe here. Why is it blank? This would have been the perfect place to have an embossed or etched image of the SS Nomadic. Not only would it be nice to look at, it would separate it from being just another homage to the Black Bay, as would a different dial and bezel, but still retaining that Black Bay style case if that's what they wanted to go for. And I know what you're all thinking. Don, are you going a little hard here? Many have used this case style and done similar homages since the introduction of the Black Bay. And further, how many brands homage other brands blatantly? Why is this one any different? Well, I'll tell you, thank you for asking. There are a few reasons. Take Jeanneau, or Jeannault, or however you want to pronounce that brand, as an example. There really is no backstory, there is no link to a famous city or ship. It's all about a mil-spec style watch that Rolex doesn't make anymore, and they don't shy away from the fact that they are creating an expensive homage to a vintage piece. With Nomadic and this first model, I think it's just the story and the inspiration of the brand and how this watch was designed and how it was marketed. Whether you go to the Nomadic website, see an ad on social media, it's marketed as this great seafaring watch taking inspiration from Belfast shipping yards, and of course the SS Nomadic. But when you look at the watch, all you really see is a Black Bay, minus the snowflake hands. And as you saw in the specifications, it's also $1,000, and that's with no date. If you go date, add another $100. So this isn't exactly your cheap micro that you buy because you like the look of it and it's relatively affordable. So all of this is a long-winded way to say I personally feel the brand could have done more to make this watch stand out, to not look so much like a Black Bay, and to show more of that heritage of the city of Belfast and of course that SS Nomadic. Okay, but what about the watch? How is it built? How does it wear and feel? Well, I gotta be honest, it's a pretty damn solid piece. The construction and finishing is definitely on par with other watches of this price point. The dial is nice and clean with nice applied indices, no dust or debris to speak of, something I've noticed that seems to happen with a lot of micro brands. The bezel action is very precise and tight. It's one of those bezels that is obviously very functional for timing things, but also one that is fun to turn and annoy your wife with. And when she asks you to stop playing with your bezel, you can pull out your pocket knife and start flicking that open, and she'll eventually roll her eyes and you could put that down as well and go watch another YouTube video, preferably one on this channel. Crown action is pretty solid as well. Not the best crown feeling in the world, but nothing that causes alarm, and it screws in with a good feeling as to not over tighten or strip the crown. One issue though, this is a no date, and as I said, you can pick from a no date or a date model, but this is not a no date movement as it has the phantom date wheel. Honestly, at $1,000, I would have expected the date delete. You might as well just pony up that extra $100 for the date model. At least you will be able to see what the crown moves in the first position. The bracelet is pretty standard, and they did not go the rivet style bracelet route, so you have screws in the links easily removable, at least on my example. I can't speak to all of them. And the clasp, while generic, is functional, and you have a few micro adjustment holes. Now, to be clear, this is not your $300 watch bracelet. It has good finishing, a nice heft, and it's definitely one I would expect on a $1,000 watch, minus the clasp at least, which could use an upgrade. But the nicest part is the end links. Nomadic attempted to mimic the end links on the Tudor Black Bay, and they did a pretty decent job. And those end links do make this feel like a slightly higher end piece. The bracelet and the end links are definitely nicer than what you would find on a Steinhardt Ocean 1 or a Glycine Combat, as an example. On my 7.5 inch or 19.05 centimeter wrist, this is a very comfortable watch, very svelte with that thin case, and even with the dome sapphire, this watch wears thin, which is good for those that want to wear this under a shirt cuff or those who just prefer something lower profile. This is just a very wearable watch, a good everyday piece, but one thing of note, I only needed 2 links out for my wrist. I have them all in now to show you how much room is left, so if you have a big wrist, you may want to ask about extra links before you order. As I have discussed many times, I really don't talk about accuracy with these pretty common movements used in countless watches unless I see something very off, and this one is no different. It's probably about 7 seconds slow, more than in spec with an SW200-1, and this is on my example only, of course. And lastly, the lume, which is fantastic as you can see. If you love lume and how a watch with good lume looks in the dark, well, you're probably going to like this one. It's not only great initially too, this lume does have some holding power. I was able to see the time in the pitch black about 4 hours after turning off the lights, giving it a nice charge with the UV light beforehand. I think Nomadic built a hell of a watch, no doubt about it. It is a Tudor Black Bay homage. I get every brand needs to gimmick and have marketing, but with that, I wish they either embraced the Tudor aspect or they did more to the watch to convey more of that legendary shipbuilding industry in Belfast. Let me know what you think about all this down in the comment section below. I would love to hear from you. And of course, I will have a written review, maybe going a little bit more in depth on watchreport.com. Also, you may notice some of these reviews are taking longer to get published or the reviews are further apart. That is because I want to put together the best review I can, whether it be testing the watch out, wearing it, photos, the video shots, etc. And this just can't be done in 2 to 3 days and then boom, video up. No one can give you any kind of real review after 3 days, so with that said, it does mess with the algorithm here on YouTube not having videos uploaded constantly. So come on and help us out. Like this video, subscribe, turn on notifications, and comment on our videos. That helps support this channel more than you will ever know. Don't be afraid to share it either. This is Don Evans from Watch Report. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.